take your fears, your insecurities, your worries, you roll them all up into a ball, you turn those some bitches sideways and stick them straight up, then candy out!
Pick your goal and stick fucking to it. You wishy-washy motherfuckers. I can't fucking stand you.
I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time with the time and I don't have time for this and I don't have that. You have time. You make the time.
And now, welcome to the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by FitnessInformant.com.
Fan base, net worth, bitch. Can't say there's worse, bitch. Do something, fuck it, I prove something. Don't switch up, should've made your best first, bitch. I'ma rap my
hair
shit.
is long as fuck from COVID 2020. COVID hair. Senior VP of Content, Gerhard Horman, G. I mean, you've it's fun to watch you evolve this year because we have different categories we're going to talk about today in our nomination show. But we one of the categories we're talking about, G, is Breakout Brand of the Year. I think the brand G broke out this year. I think that you have some stake in this space now. People are like, you rocking the hair because I told you can't cut it. But I mean,
yeah, that's true. I lose all my worth is what you told me directly.
100%. And I remember when we first kind of got you on camera. I remember how hesitant you were, and this was like, fuck, man. When did you came to my place like early in the year, and we had you do like your first review on the green screen, and now you're just comfortable as shit. You're out there slinging
those videos
buzzwords.
Don't exist. Those videos don't exist anymore. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, so my breakout brand of the year would go right away to G, but since you're not technically a brand, but you're in high demand, I would think, right? The ladies are in G. High demand. G is in high demand amongst the ladies, amongst the dietary supplement world. But we do want to dive into our nominees this year. It's a big thing that we do every year, and whether you agree with the awards or not, that's whatever. We want to recognize in a year that was abnormal, to say the least.
It's a very different year.
For sure. But I think this is why we do this. Like, we're going to recognize brands and products that have sort of broke through the shit cloud that was 2020 and COVID. And there was a lot of good things. I think that we sometimes forget a lot of the good stuff that came out this year. And for me, one of my favorite categories is the first one that we're going to talk about, and that is Breakout Brand of the Year. And, last year we had some cool brands in it, like Gasperi was in it last year. People were like, why did you put Gasperi in it? Because everybody thought like Gasperi was dead in 2019, and they came back up.
I thought they were dead. I did not know that they were in business until I figured out that, oh, wow, they're still around. They came out with Proven Egg. They made, they came out of nowhere, so to speak.
They
came
did.
back from the dead.
And I think this year, the brands that we have on our nomination list, I think many people listening will probably expect them to be on here, which is a good thing. But then there's a couple brands here that people might be like, maybe they didn't expect them to be on. So it is a good list that I think. And this list again, every nominee will be available to be voted for on FitnessInformant.com. The fans will get a vote this year. G gets a vote. I get a vote, and then ultimately we will award the brands and products as we go. So G, why don't you start out with one of the nominees in the Breakout Brand of the Year category?
This one's probably the easiest one, probably the most obvious one. They made a lot of headway. They did things interestingly with their formulas, their branding. They have some very cool content. They are one of the few brands that can actually do things differently. One of the few, and that is obviously Glaxon.
Glaxon is interesting because I think they're one of the brands in the space that there's not – I don't want to say there's not a ton of synergy amongst their branding because each product kind of has its own look and feel versus, you look at a Redcon or a Ghost. They all kind of look like a same family. But what's the Glaxon product that looks like Space Jam?
Oh, I have no idea. We did not use too many Glaxon products this year. I think we have one review on their stuff so far. We have like a couple of their products here that we just got to. These guys have been doing a lot of things throughout the year. We just finally got around to using their stuff. I do forget which one that is. I kind of want to look it up right now.
Yeah, and I probably will too. But Glaxon, has made, last year people were clamoring for Glaxon to be in the Brand of the Year conversation with us. And it's like it's too soon. And in a year that was extremely weird, I think they did. They did things their way, and they did things unique, and they grew their distribution network through a lot of brick and mortar retailers. I think a lot, even on our pages, the Self-Made Barbell Brigade, on our Fitness Informant pages, on comments, Glaxon was one of the brands that was
Most requested products or brands
requested a
that
ton.
we got.
What do you think of Glaxon Sedative, which I think is one of your favorite favorite products out there? Like there are, it's an interesting story behind the scenes on Glaxon, kind of how they came to fruition. A story for another day, and maybe we'll bring on Michael to talk about that, or somebody involved, Sam Strange. But they're definitely a brand that deserves recognition for what they did this year. One could argue that they could potentially be in the brand of the year conversation, but I feel like this is the year that they really broke out of their shell and put their name on the map in dietary supplements.
It's going to be really hard for any of the other brands on this list to actually, compete with them. Not saying that they're winning right off the bat. However, they have made a very strong case for themselves this year. That's without a doubt. Anybody you ask is probably going to say that.
I think one brand that could give them a really run for their money, and I think fans would agree, is Axe and Sledge. And they're on our list as well as in terms of breakout brand of the year. Now, they've been around for a little bit too. But I feel, I think with the popularity of Hydraulic, their pump formula, and then they came out with their Jack Daniel's Whiskey Cola. I think that made a huge
was very
splash,
interesting
right?
launch. I'm not even a whiskey fan, but hey, that's a great drop, and I love the branding of it.
I haven't even tried it, but I've heard really good things. What I know is I tried Hydraulic. People request Axe and Sledge from us all the time. And Hydraulic was great. I thought it was phenomenal. I now work closer with the people over at Axe and Sledge behind the scenes on some other things, on some other businesses, and they're good people. I think they're doing things the right way, and they're growing their distribution too. It seems like every brick and mortar store that I go into, I see an Axe and Sledge product. And typically it's Hydraulic, their pump formula. But that's not to say they don't have other stuff too. I mean, this is who's the personality behind it? Is it Seth Force, right?
Seth Feroci, I believe the name is.
So the big lumberjack looking, I know that they have some good advertisements for the brand.
They have a lot of personality. Let's say it like that. They have a lot of personality there in their own way too.
100%. And like I said, I think that they have grown their popularity this year. They obviously, I go back to the whiskey cola thing because the branding is borderline, infringing on IP from Jack Daniel's, but somehow they get away with it. And if they're able to continue to sell that, and it made a big splash, and people are like, "Yep, this is not only is it just like a cool looking bottle, but it's a good formula." But I also, I guess I've tried their farm fed too, their protein, which is a grass fed protein. They also have, is it Demo Day, right? Their carbohydrate powder that they call our Demo Day.
Yeah, that's it, Demo Day.
So they have several products that have grown in popularity. The Grind, Ignition Switch, we can go on and on, but their branding is cool. And it's cool branding mixed with good formulas. So we also have Axe and Sledge on the list as well, plus 3 other brands.
Oh, yeah. I guess I should announce the next one. This one comes from a good friend of mine, actually, known him for a long time. I think you know who I'm talking about. Looking at Dragon Pharma.
Yeah. I'll
Dragon
be honest
Pharma,
with you.
Drew Peters.
I didn't know what the fuck Dragon Pharma was until Drew went to the company. And that's
Drew will make sure you know about them, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Drew is very, very conversational online, and he's very in tune with what's going on in the space. He has some really good formulating friends. He's a good formulator himself, but and obviously I did another podcast with Drew, but he obviously would take time out of his day to help people, and I think that's something that people forget. But Dragon Pharma went from, in my, again, somebody who's been in this space, I know you've been in this space, not really knowing anything about. I think if you Google Dragon Pharma, it was more, and this is no association, but it was like anabolic steroids. It was something that wasn't even dietary supplements. And this is funny. Like, I think Drew Peters has done more for Dragon Pharma than Big Ramy has, at least stateside in the U.S.
It's true.
I
know about them through their influencers. They have those really, bodybuilder-esque influencers on the internet. People, which for the longest time I kind of blew him off for that because I see something like that and kind of like whatever, probably underdosed, garbage. Never took the time out of my day to look at them. But then when Drew went on there, and knowing his reputation, I had to start to take a look and to see what he's done there. He's really changed things there. There's a lot of cool formulations coming out of there. So, and you got to give credit to Drew. He's actually becoming the face of the company over a lot of their efforts.
Well, they have the. I mean, what's his title is like Director of Science Affairs, but they do like Science Tuesday or whatever it is. He does some videos, but I mean, they really overhauled everything. There's Dr. Fear. There's Neuromorph, ATP Force. They came out with a wellness line, which includes like liver. I think there's a Cardio 1, vitamin C, prostate. Like they did a lot this year, in a year in which was very interesting. But you see them start to show up at really well recognized retailers like Natural Body and across some other online.coms, and I think that's a testament to what they're doing. I know they redid Venom, I think, too, and they did some new flavors. I think the only thing they really didn't touch, and maybe they did, was the protein, and maybe they came out with some new flavors of that. But I know they rebranded too. They redid all the labels. When I visited Drew in Miami
really
early in the
nice.
year, it looked awesome, and there's texture to them. So that is a brand that a lot of times we talk about these brands. It's like, who's got the biggest marketing budget? That's the brand that makes the biggest splash. And I think Glaxon and Axe and Sledge have a big marketing budget, and Dragon Pharma, they really don't. And I think their marketing budget went to their formulas and Drew getting out there and hustling.
Yep. And I'm sure their athletes are not too cheap either, a lot of them.
Well, I mean, the Big Ramy cannot be the cheapest athlete in the world. He's one of the biggest athletes in the world, but I can't imagine he's cheap at all. Another brand that we have on this list for Breakout Brand of the Year, which is, some people might be like, well, they maybe have never tried the brand, but I think in a year of COVID, this brand makes complete sense. It's both G and I's favorite sort of wellness brand in the space, and that's Revive MD. And Revive MD, for the most part, is going to be caps. A lot of capsules. They do have a powder now in their daily greens, but
12 caps a day, every product.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about efficaciously dosed products. Granted, you're taking a lot of capsules a day, but they didn't. They've been stressing general health for a long time, and all of a sudden COVID hit, and then people realized, hey, a compromised immune system means you could be really fucked by this pandemic. But they've had these things out there for people to take care of themselves. Whether you're a hardcore athlete, which is essentially who these products were designed for, the people who are really pushing the limits in terms of bodybuilding and fitness, but they can be used by anybody. And yes, they are expensive. They're more expensive than others on the market, but they're not cheap to make. G, you know these ingredients.
In a world full of, or in an industry filled with like stimulating pre-workouts, sketchy fat burners, pro hormones, it's nice to see a brand that actually does things like, shit that you actually should care about. Mm-hmm. But, all the fun stuff's like, ooh, pre-workouts, ooh, BCAAs, ooh, how does this protein taste? They do things a little bit different there, and it's kind of nice to see that they're actually like marketing towards bodybuilders or, more of the hardcore fitness enthusiasts, but shit that they should be taking.
Yeah. And here's why. And here's a big thing, too. The impact they had within the space. How many brands came out with a general health line after the success of Revive MD? One of the brands we just talked about, Dragon Pharma, came out with one. And I'm not saying that Revive MD had an impact on that, but I'm sure it played somewhat into it. I know NutriBio has had a general health wellness line for a while, but then they were going to start coming out with like Tudka and things that are, going after or increasing the health of your liver and kidneys and things like that. So they really influenced other brands to start creating these products because there is a space for these products, and people are willing to spend the dollar if it makes complete sense on a general health product.
Very true. Very true. So do we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, this one might be some people might scratch their head at this one, but I think it makes complete sense.
This one kind of reminds us of last year's Gaspari, talking about Man Sports.
Boom.
Really cool new design, some new formulas that actually look pretty good. A new pre-workout game day, which I guess is back from the dead as well. Speaking of brands back from the dead, not that Man Sports was ever dead per se. They've still been around. However, they were quite quiet for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Now they're back, and I love the new look. Love the new products, and I think they're gonna be a big force in the next year as well for 2021.
I think you're right. I think Alex and Steve has done a great job with the rebrand. It's one of my favorite rebrands of the year. And with the rebrand, typically comes you should do more than just rebrand. There's probably some new flavor extensions. There's some new formulas. We got to try the new Game Day. We got to try Vasojet. We got to try several different products. Yeah, I mean they went from the black and yellow, or basically yellow, to more of a white, which seems like a common theme. There's nothing wrong with that. But Game Day, for instance, the product you just showed, is a great product. I mean, my only knack at that, and we'll talk about that here at some point, is like caffeine content for some might be high. But I thought overall it was still a great pre-workout. It's their staple. I mean, Game Day is what made Man Sports back in 2014, 2015. So to see them, they've essentially had that same look for the better part of the last 4 or 5 years. To do a brand refresher becomes top of mind for consumers, and I think it was a good play by Man Sports.
Yep. I mean, even knocking on game day, like you said, like I'm not big on the use of dendrobium, for instance, but at the end of the day, like I can overlook that. The formula still looks very good. Like every formula of game day, I've always been very impressed by and always thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's been a common theme for like 10 years now from them. It doesn't look like they've changed at all.
No,
but in a good way.
It's good. Let's shift our attention to proteins this year. Protein typically is going to be a category like last year. It was going to be Unicorn Cookie Shake from Muscle Sport. They just itched out Ghost. Ghost came out with Chips Ahoy in 2019. And this year, I think we have a pretty solid list too. You know, there's a non-whey on here again this year in our list. Just like last year, I think we had Proven Egg from Gasperi. So, start out with probably, some people, there's two really big launches this year in terms of authentic collaborations. They're both on the list. I'll let you pick one that you want to start with.
I'll probably go with the most obvious one. The one that probably made the biggest impact, at least to me, was probably Dymatize's ISO 100, the Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Pebbles collab. I know it's more than one, but you kind of have to put them together because, you think Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles, you almost think of them as the same thing to an extent.
This was a long time coming, I think, right? So if anybody knows anything about the corporate structure of Dymatize, they're owned by Post Holdings, which actually owns Post Cereal. Like they're not, brother and sister collectively, but they've had access to the flavoring system from Post Cereal, which is Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Pebbles. And I think for the longest time, we're just sitting here thinking like, when are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? Well, they finally did it. And it's one thing to do it, right? We could talk about there's a protein that bodybuilding.com partnered with Hostess and did what is it, the Twinkies, right? Like it was like whatever. Flavor wise, it was underwhelming.
Forgettable. It was a vanilla with maybe a slight cream texture to the back. Same with the chocolate.
But I will say the Fruity Pebbles tastes like Fruity Pebbles milk, and it's probably the best it is the best Fruity Pebbles tasting protein on the market, in my opinion, because they nailed it. Yep,
I agree. It tastes. A lot of these brands try to get to the Fruity Pebbles. There's Fruit Loops and Fruity Pebbles type of flavors to these proteins that you see, these fruity cereal ones. And I feel like a lot of people, when they go towards the Fruity Pebbles route, there's a lot of citrus in the background, at least to me. These guys nailed it. No citrus background. It's very, very accurate, I guess would be the right word for that one. And the Cocoa Pebbles is great too. Someone just think, oh, it's just a chocolate. No, it's like a very, I guess deep would be the right word. Deep chocolate, like very strong, very delicious chocolate. So they did great on both of them.
The other authentic,
obviously, we have to knock the non-inclusions though.
That's
something we had talked about.
Nice,
but
you
it
can't
is
add
ISO
carbs.
100.
Yeah, you can't add the carbs. It'd have been nice. The edible glitter is like to me, but I get it. Although people who complain about that little amount of carbs need to rethink. We need to rethink macro calculations in the first place. The other authentic collab that was a big deal this year comes from our friends at Ghost, and it's the reigning 2019 Brand of the Year Ghost. They came out with the authentic Nutter Butter. Now, we got to try a variation back in February when we were in Chicago. It was not the variation that they ended up releasing, which the variation that they released to the public was much better, I thought, than the one we tried back in Chicago. But people lost their minds for this one again.
Oh, it's actually funny you mentioned that because I was talking to Dan one day. I think we were playing Call of Duty, and he's like, we had to work on the flavor a bit because I saw your guys' faces when, when you tried the Nutter Butter when you visited, and I could tell it wasn't, we needed to work on it just from your facial expressions. So speaks to the brand, and I think they definitely bettered it from there. Nutter Butter was my favorite protein of the year in terms of flavor. However, it's still, I recognize the impact. I still enjoyed it. I love the inclusions to it. I think it's a cool looking, great product. So it definitely deserves to be on this list for sure.
Core Nutritionals, they came out with a line of vegan proteins that I thought were absolutely phenomenal. So one thing about vegan proteins, traditionally, you could tell they were vegan. That you got that
the grittiness,
gritty earth feel, and I don't mind the mouthfeel of vegan. I like it.
I like it actually. I enjoy it.
But Core did,
but a lot of people don't.
No, Core did a really good job. Death by Chocolate, they had a fruity version of it, which was good, like mixed berry, I think. They had a pancake batter one. So they came out with a plethora of ones at this non-way that, there are several brands that I think make a good vegan protein. I think Nutrex makes a good one. I think Ghost makes a good one. I think Beam, which is a new brand, makes a good one. And Gore makes, obviously, a good one that I very much enjoyed. And I think the reason why I have them on this list is because we're trying to erase the stigmatism of vegan proteins just being awful. And I think the more and more brands that come out with good tasting vegan proteins, it's better for that entire space. And quite frankly, I actually prefer some vegan proteins over whey. And this is coming from a meathead bodybuilder.
Yep, I agree. I actually really enjoyed Core Vegan. I thought the lack of, granted, I like the grittiness. The lack of it makes it more, it's easier for me to recommend to other people. Because usually if someone asks, hey, do you know a good vegan protein? I always have to mention, if they've never tried, I'm like, there's a little bit of grittiness to them, so you have to be ready for that. With this one, it's not there as much. And I think they did great with the aftertaste. So which one did it have? Was it like a French toast type of flavor, pancakes and syrup?
Yep.
Something like that. And that one was one of the best, vegan proteins I've ever had. So definitely deserves to be on this list. They did a good one. Or they did great on that one.
We got a second Core one on here. Core did a lot this year. They redone, redid, reflavored, that and the Core Pro I thought was really done. We both just recently tried their chocolate mocha. Did you enjoy it? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I like coffee flavored proteins. They're not something I'd use every day, but when I have them around, I think this one, they did a very good job with this one. And
I do want to give a special nod. I mean, we have one more to talk about here on the list, but I want to give a special nod to NutriBio too for what they did with their Freedom Series. That Funfetti protein over the summer was really well done as well.
I think the apple out of that brand, that was one I did not like the first time I tried it, but after trying it 2 or 3 times, it became like one of my favorite, one of my go-tos actually.
The apple,
that brief
the Miss American Pie.
Yeah. First one with inclusions, and NutriBio, you should probably keep that around.
And I think they will
year round.
The last protein nominee comes from a brand that you guys know we love when it comes to proteins. For whatever reason, Jason over at Muscle Sport can kill flavoring protein. And when you first read the flavor, you're like, not really sure what to expect until you taste it. And you're like, holy hell, this is really good. We got toasted almond on here from Muscle Sport. And I will say, like, for me, my favorite Muscle Sport proteins were Unicorn Cookie Shake, and then also Fluffernutter I thought was fantastic. This actually might be my favorite Muscle Sport protein.
Yeah, well, unlike you, I actually did know what it was going to taste like. I think Ronnie Coleman's signature series had an isolate that was also toasted almond, like, what was it, 8 years ago? And I got my hands on some, and it was like this, pretty much the same flavor. I think Muscle Sports may be slightly sweeter, but they did very good with it. It's like a marzipan flavor. If people on here know marzipan or do not know marzipan, it's very delicious. Probably one of my favorites to make protein pancakes with, actually, from Muscle Sport.
And you showed it, yeah. I mean, it's, I see on the label they have like those good humor bars or whatever. Like they have some of the ice cream bars, so I was kind of expecting that. And to an extent it was. It reminded me a little bit of a pistachio too, for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I mean, it was just, overall, it was really, really good. It was really, really good.
They did a great job on that one. Love the little bits of, I think it's coconut in there, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's coconut bits. Very good.
This is your personal invitation to the Redcon 1 Alpha Team, our new exclusive subscription program. Enjoy members-only access to the Alpha Team apparel collection, priority customer service privileges, early shopping on major deals, exclusive flavor selections, and a whole lot more. This is your opportunity to become a Redcon 1 VIP. There's limited spots available, so go to redcon1.com and sign up today.
shift back to the brand side and let's talk about, this is a new category for us. We've never done this before, but I think that we need to recognize brands who they're every day. And G just sent me a Facebook advertisement, an Instagram advertisement the other day. Start your own supplement company, right? Like I think it was from NutriCap or somebody. You can start your own supplement company with MOQs of like 144. But there are new brands that come in the space every year, some better than others. But I want to take time to recognize a few that I thought did a really good job of making a mark in the space this year. So we created a new category called the Best New Brand of the Year. We have 4 nominees in this category. I think most people watching or listening has probably heard of these before. And we will start. I'm going to start with one, and obviously try to remove all bias aside because he was my coach during my bodybuilding prep. But Matt Jansen and Dr. Dom, who both own Revive MD, launched basically a performance powder line called Raw Nutrition. Phenomenal products, great products. I think they launched at a good time because it was kind of getting towards the end of when gyms were starting to open up, and they launched a pump, a pre-workout / fat burner. They launched an entire fucking line. It wasn't just like 2 SKUs. They had a protein, a vegan protein. They had an intro workout. So they came out with an entire line of supplements that were branded nicely. It was a good look. The only knock is it's a bit expensive, but it's expensive because the formulations are that good.
I agree there. I have not been able to try anything from Raw except their intro workout. And from what I can tell, your review on it was top notch. They know what they're doing. It is hard, especially this year, to pick out a new brand because the world's in a crazy space. People in the future watching this, it was a crazy time. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of opportunity, but mainly for brands that were already around, I feel. Launching a new brand in today's day was a bit harder, and a couple of these brands on these lists definitely made an impact, definitely made themselves known. So, but trying everything new is also tough. So, Raw definitely deserves to be on this list. I agree with that 100%.
Who else you got on this list there, G?
This one's pretty obvious. Great brand, cool, from a very interesting guy. And you know who I'm talking about, of course. Yep. I'm talking about Beam. Yep. Be Amazing. Very cool brand. Love what they did with their vegan protein. Their blueberry muffin flavor. Awesome. I think it's like blueberry. Is it blueberry muffin or pancake?
I think blueberry muffin. Yeah.
It was one of the better vegan proteins I've tried, like we just mentioned before. Beam, new brand, 100% deserves to be on this list. And yeah, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think they did. I mean, their pre-workout used. I mean, there was an interesting formula when it came to their pre-workout, right? It was good. It wasn't overpowering. I think Mariah, one of our reviewers, actually had that pre-workout, right? Was she the one that ran it and actually did the full review on the Beam pre-workout? That ended up being a pretty good ranking. So I their proteins are what they kind of known for with Splash because we know where it's produced and made, and they have a good flavoring system down there. But the story behind Beam, and we got a chance to speak with Michael, who's the head of that brand, and just to hear the story and why it came to fruition, I think is very impactful. And we got an opportunity to tell that story on Fitness Informant. But I think they did a good job of being able to get their brand out. What I thought was cool about this, and I don't think a lot of people know, is that Beam is owned by the people behind Campus Protein. But you can't find, or you won't find Beam on campusprotein.com. Like, at least not initially. Maybe it is now. I know when they launched, it wasn't going to be. So to launch a brand new brand and not even use your own platform, that speaks volumes about how confident they were in that brand and doing some cool things with it. So, no, phenomenal story, cool brand. We got to cover some stuff at Fitness Informant, which has been great. 2 other brands on this list. I'll speak about Rising Labs first and foremost. So, the One-Legged Monster is his Instagram handle. A lot of people know him. I mean, he's a military veteran, has a great story. He was somebody who was ambassador for many other brands, right? Before at some point, now these ambassador-driven brands are coming to being a thing. You look at him, for instance. You look at you look at Julian Smith over at Arms Race Nutrition. You can obviously find people who've had an influence in the fitness world that have worked for others that now have their own line. And this was one that, I think made a good splash. A lot of people believed in kind of what he was doing and what he meant as a person. So I want to recognize that brand. I know he's starting to go into wholesale a bit more, into brick and mortar. I actually helped him get into one store out in Ohio for Bullfrog Nutrition. I think it was a good fit. So I appreciate hard work in a year like 2020 where you need to put the work in to get shit done.
You want to speak on the next brand too? I don't have too much experience with this other brand here that we have listed. I know you're a big fan of them.
Yeah, I mean, Hostile
I've
Subs.
definitely heard of them.
Yeah,
I've
Hostile
definitely
Subs,
heard
I
of
think,
them.
is I mean, you got a bodybuilder-driven brand. You have people behind the brand that actually were associated with other brands in the past. They know how to get things out. But they have some very, very good formulations. I think there might have just been a confusion on. They have a non-stim pre and a pre. So most times in this world, when you say non-stim pre, people think, oh, you can just stack it with a pre-workout. Well, in this case, you'd be overloading on nitrates, and your blood pressure would probably go crazy, drop on you. But, I mean, overall, I think Hostile Supplements was one of those brands who, I wouldn't say they tried to do a kitchen sink approach like Morphogen Nutrition per se, but they were, they did good in terms of what they're doing. And they came out with a pre, both stim and non-stim. They
Very
came out
impressive formula
with
arginine nitrate.
Yeah. So NO3, they came out with an amino product and an intra workout. And products are priced a little bit higher, like their intra workouts, like I think $46 on their website. But again, you get what you pay for. And I think a lot of times in this space, people are expecting a $30 pre-workout. You're just not going to find that anymore, or even like a $30 intra workout. Some of these high quality intra workouts, like Raw Nutrition and even this one, are going to be above $45. But that's because we understand, at least people who will take their training seriously, understand the importance of like peri-workout nutrition, your pre, your intra, and your post. And this is your intra-workout nutrition. So to do it correctly with some carb sources in it, makes complete sense from my standpoint and from people who actually take this shit seriously.
There you go. That's it. This is the one category we don't have 5 brands. We have 4.
Yep.
So nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. As we said, there weren't too many new brands this year. There were, however, making an impact in COVID 2020 is a bit difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on then now to a category that is one that we talk about every single year, but this year was very interesting in terms of, we're going to talk about product of the year because everybody wants to know about pre-workouts. So we're going to do product of the year first. There's a brand on here with 2 products I think that were extremely impactful in the space this year. And, a product that is not yet launched, but should it launch per the promise and guarantee, it is going to be extremely impactful. So I'll start with that one. I'll start with Redcon One's MRE RTD. No, it is not in the market yet. However, Aaron Singerman, CEO of Redcon One, said it will drop in November, which could be a massive market mover for Redcon One. Aaron mentioned to me on another podcast, this alone could be a $100 million business. If you think about the protein RTDs, G, you have Premier Protein, you have Muscle Milk, and then in niche gyms and stuff, you have like the ABB, which is the Optum brand or the Glambia brand.
Than everybody else, pretty much.
Right. And then
maybe.
Labrada maybe still makes some things, but I mean, really nobody's touched that space. Everybody's running and clamoring to the energy drink space, and they want to make an energy drink, and you can do it well. Look at Ghost. But for the most part, that shit's saturated. So to do something in the protein space that is a non-dairy, so Whole Foods type of replacement like MRE, could be massive. So this is sort of the oddball on the list only because it's not out yet, but should it release this year, it definitely needs to be under consideration. Again, these are nominees. These are not our final verdicts, so we have some time to see what this does should it release. But if it does release, it definitely belongs on this list.
I agree. The next one, this is probably your favorite product of the year. This is actually a nootropic. I think this is the first nootropic to ever make one of our lists, along with this other one that we have here later. I'm talking about Core Zone.
Right.
I remember you taking that product maybe your first or second time and texting me, dude, this is like my new favorite product right now. Core Zone. Great product of the year. Great product from Core. It was very interesting, very straightforward product. However, it certainly delivers an experience.
What I like about it too is like the use of pregnenolone, and we praised them about using pregnenolone in their pre-workout because for me, my only sort of experience with pregnenolone prior to using Core Fear and Core Zone was my fiance Danielle was prescribed pregnenolone to help regulate her cycle to try to get it going back on because she was bodybuilding, and anybody who's a female bodybuilder knows when you get that lean, your shit stops, and it can stop for a while, and she just never got hers back. So her hormone doctor actually gave her pregnenolone to try to get that to go. Interesting that we see it in here, but at low doses, like 10 milligrams of pregnenolone, can yield high benefits in terms of cognitive enhancement. So really cool to see that in there. I'm going to take one of these two. I'm going to talk about the one because I'm more beautiful than G. I'm going to talk about Ghost. Yeah, right. I'm going to talk about Ghost Glow. I think this is a massively underrated product in this space because if you look at other products that did stuff like this, Alani Nu had one, and it did extremely well in GNC. But if you look at the dosing of that compared to what Ghost Glow was, it's not even close. So I think what Ghost did is, they gave us a efficaciously dosed, I don't want to call it a beauty product, but I mean more of like a product that promotes healthy aging. I'll say it that way, amongst other things. But they also tried to erase the stigma that this is a product just for women. So Alani Nu is a primarily female-driven brand. Ghost kind of came out and said, listen, our ambassadors came to us, both men and women, and people like G who take care of their hair, their nails, and their face. And it's like, this is a product for you. And overwhelmingly, the feedback from even the male side was extremely positive. I think a lot of people welcomed it, and it just opens up a whole new category of dietary supplements for other brands to potentially release here in the next year.
I agree. I get a lot of health products sent to me as well. And I think, like, out of all of them, the only one that I've taken every single day for the past few months has been Ghost Glow. That's actually one of the few I've actually noticed some firsthand benefits from. A few months ago, probably 6 months ago or so, a little bit before Ghost Glow got launched, I don't know the exact date on that, I did have a bad breakout on my back, and it just wouldn't go away. I think it was due to stress from COVID, like not seeing the sun as much. And then Ghost Glow comes out. I can't give it 100% of all the credit there because I started like seeing the sun a little bit more, going on that weekly beach walk on Saturday mornings, getting some sun. But within a month of using Glow, everything, any breakouts that I had were gone.
Right.
And that's like the one thing I changed. It's not like I changed my diet or anything really. So there's that. And while it does technically appeal to women more, even the design of it, like the nice white, it's still a product that I'd recommend to guys over a lot of other products that we all take.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely an interesting product, and I really enjoy it.
While we're on the topic of Ghost, why don't you go ahead and take this next one, since this is sort of your field of expertise?
Well, the first time I met Dan back, I think it was 2018, is when I was with another site. He kind of brought up like, hey, we're not just focused on the fitness industry too. They're gamers at heart. And so it made sense. Yeah, we're probably going to get into the gaming space eventually. And what do you know, 2020, COVID hits, everybody's stuck inside. Everything kind of came together, all the planets aligned, and they launched Ghost Gamer. And it became a huge hit pretty much overnight, and they're doing great stuff. It's almost going to become its own line itself under Ghost. So Ghost Gamer on this list, definitely a candidate for Product of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, G Fuel, that they own that category. G Fuel and Mountain Dew were like the two go-tos with gamers, right? So Ghost isn't the first dietary supplement company to try to get into the gaming field, but I think that they're the ones who made the largest impact. Ghost Gamer, now you have companies like MyoBlocks coming out there. You have what's the most recent one that just popped? I know Muscle Tech has a line or a gaming line that they came out with. So there are other companies that are trying to get in that space because, Christ, you know more than anybody how quickly that space is growing, how popular these things are. I mean, you told me, like, whatever you watch, it's watched by more people than the Super Bowl, right? Is that what you told me?
League of Legends, well, depending on how you look at the statistics, Josh Shaw gave me a lecture on that, I believe. But it's watched as much as the Super Bowl, mainly worldwide, because it's, gaming's like the main sport in Korea.
Yeah.
And China's also big on that. But yeah, League of Legends Worlds, it was crazy to watch, and a lot of people watch that, pretty much comparable to the Super Bowl.
It's nuts.
So it's a growing field. So I also like what Ghost did with this. They signed with XSET. If you don't know who they are, it was made by some people that were on the board of, I believe it was FaZe Clan. If you don't know them, look into it. That's a huge thing too. So this one product is going to develop into something much bigger. And they're doing really cool stuff with this one product, and I expect it to be one of their most popular products in the future, in my opinion. At least.
I know you love
Maybe
it.
next to Energy.
I like it just for cognition, just to make sure that I'm like thinking right. So like it's called Ghost Gamer, but it can definitely be used interchangeably as a nootropic. Like I think people, if you want to be productive and get shit done, that is a product that definitely deserves. That and Core Zone are very similar in that matter of getting stuff done. But I think we kind of talked about on this website. One is we give the nod to one for productivity, and then we give the nod to the other for gaming, because it does use gaming ingredients that were tested. The last product in this for Product of the Year comes from a philanthropic effort from NutriBio, and it's NutriBio's First Response. And we're going to talk about NutriBio and their philanthropic efforts here in a little bit too, as I talk about that, G. But this product, it wasn't available for sale. it wasn't something that you and I could go and buy, but it was a product that they made and they gave out to first responders during COVID. So policemen, firefighters, nurses, doctors, people who are on the front lines facing this through a tough time. And I know they gave away over like $500,000 worth of product just to help people. And it is just, it was a good product too. I mean, it was simple. It was a simple product. It tasted well.
Very simple product.
But the meaning behind it, I think, was more important than the formula was. And I think that they, obviously they got a ton of brand goodwill from this. I know Mark Glazer and the team were really excited about this, reverting their dollars and putting it into this product. And, it shows what type of impact that made, and the amount of posts of first responders with that product that was being hand-delivered from Mark and the team, it goes a long way.
Especially in this year where, a lot of people are, divided on everything, it kind of does bring people together like, hey, we're all human. Time to help the people that do help us. So they definitely gave back in a great way. And I think this was the first product I actually told you, hey, we should put this for product of the year. I think that was like months ago when it first launched. Yep. We got like, you know what? This is too good. We got to make sure, I don't think anybody can even buy it, but it definitely deserves the nod, or at least a nomination.
Right.
So definitely deserves to be on this list. Great job from NutriBio.
Totally agree. And one thing that G and I didn't talk about before, but I want to talk about, I wrote an article on this over at Fitness Informant about, in a year that was 2020, there are certain brands that gave this year quite a bit. So philanthropic efforts. And I want to recognize 5 brands that are going to be up for the inaugural Philanthropic Brand of the Year Awards. So you can read about all these brands over at fitnessinformant.com. We could do a whole podcast on all the good that they did this year. One is a brand we just talked about, NutriBio. Designated a lot of their funds to creating products for first responders to help those in the front lines fighting this pandemic known as COVID. That was such an act of giving that they need to be recognized, and they are definitely up for a Philanthropic Brand of the Year award. The second is Ghost. Ghost did did several cool things this year, starting all the way back from the Australian wildfires early in the year. They had like the Apparel of the Month drop, where all proceeds went to support the efforts in Australia, which they looked like firefighter outfits. Then they planted a tree for every Ghost Green product that was purchased. And then the one thing maybe a lot of people don't know about Ghost, and I think it's important in a year where we had a ton of social injustice movements and conversation, they were in Chicago, and they were close to the Black Lives Matter movement, so they actually just took funds and donated it to help the efforts there, to help educate and essentially, provide or move that movement forward, as well as just recently here in October, they donated $10,000 to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation with their Hyper Pink Shaker. Another brand, Redcon One. Redcon One's been giving to military foundations since the get-go. So much so that they eventually said, you know what, we give so much, why don't we start our own foundation? So the Redcon One Foundation was founded this year. They have a board of directors that have some really good people on it. They actually help pay a mortgage for a veteran who lost his job via COVID for 6 months. They had the readiness run. They're doing a lot of cool things to help military vets and families, and that says a lot because that's on brand for Redcon, and it's a really good thing for them to do that. Muscle Tech is another brand doing things for veterans. You saw that, GA, I think, posted the article at fitnessinformant.com, but they have their Home for Our Troops, partnership that they work with, where they actually have a special branded line over at bodybuilding.com and Muscle and Strength, in which proceeds are given to Homes for Our Troops, so they can build homes for veterans who come back and don't have much, And then the last brand I want to recognize on this list is the brand that kind of stepped up, I thought, maybe more than most, back in February during those Australian wildfires, and that was Alpha Line. And Alpha Line actually came out with 2 limited edition Superhuman Supremes. One was Koala Candy, and the other one was Mangaroo, in which they donated it was $47,000. It was like $35,000 American to the cause and to the foundation, which was good. Plus, a lot of people don't know this either. They donate a portion of the proceeds every single day to Vitamin Angels, which helps with malnourishment of families and children, with vitamins and things of that nature, because they're not getting it enough from food. So that's something about Alpha Line that not a lot of people know, but it's something that they do that's so cool that I think they should talk more about. But if they won't do it, I'll definitely do it for them. So we're really excited about that award this year. I've always been a fan of brands who use their platform to help others, and not to say that they were the only 5 brands to do so, but they're the ones to really make a wave this year, and I hope more brands kind of take a page from their book and do some good things this year as we go into 2021.
I agree. You did good there.
Strength isn't a slogan.
You want to win this year?
Yes, no! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time!
It's not an image you find on billboards or the big screen. It's never been about any of that. It's all around you, in everyday moments, just waiting to be unleashed. Strength is the knowledge that inside you lies anything you've ever wanted to be. The confidence that your failures never define you, and the passion and purpose to drive beyond any limits placed upon you. When you call upon it, strength embraces you, challenges you, pulls you back up, no matter how many times you fall. It compels you to draw on courage, resilience, intensity, and hope, and expects your very best to help others find theirs. True strength demands you build more than muscle, not in pursuit of a personal best, but a better tomorrow for everyone.
Adding my product is going to help you get to where you want to be.
5%ers is 5% of the people in the world that are willing to do whatever it takes to reach their goals. We're talking about business, success, education, willing to do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been would be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
Pre-workout of the year. Back to this is the second most purchased category in the space behind protein, but it's probably the most exciting because protein's protein. But pre-workout can have some excitement too.
Everybody loves this.
A lot of cool little pre-workouts this year. Some happened early in the year, so may be forgotten. But G, you want to start us out?
All right, let's start off with one that is probably has the most impressive formula on paper. I'll go with Core Fury. This is the one that really put pregnenolone on the map for pre-workouts. Mm-hmm. To start all this off, it does, because one question we get a lot is what's the best pre-workout, and it's hard to say. We always have to say there is no best. Like, best for what? These are just pre-workouts that probably made the most impact, that were the most impressive when they came out in our eyes. But definitely Core Fury, you can't not have it on your list if you're doing a pre-workout of the year type of thing. Great flavoring, great profile, very little to complain about. Pregnenolone is now on the map, like I said. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it's one of my favorite pre-workouts. I still have some in my pantry that I use like every other day. It's just a staple for me. Not to say, like I said, like G said, it might be, for me, it's one of my favorite. But to somebody else, maybe it's not. But I thought in terms of the formulation, I think Kenton did a really good job on formulating this for core. And it definitely deserves, and again, using that hero ingredient of pregnenolone makes it different than anything else that was out there because, to my knowledge, nobody was using it. And maybe there was, but they didn't make enough noise about it. We talked about one earlier about Man Sports and their game day. I think their game day, although we don't have the full review up on it yet, we've each got to try it, the new formulation of game day. I'm a big fan of it. I think it works extremely well. It's not just the look, but the formula, like I said, I mean, there's a couple of things that you and I would pick apart on the formula, but overall, in a year,
it delivers.
It delivers, and it's dosed well on pretty much everything, and it tastes great. So, Man Sports, their game day here in 2020 definitely deserves to be on this list.
Easily. There's a little bit of the clumping issue in there. However, that goes away when you mix in water. Flavoring is actually quite good as well for everything that's in there. It might not be for everybody, especially with the Ohimbine in there. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that's what I expect from Man Sports. When I think of game day, I think of something very hard hitting, something that's going to meet label claims, and something that's just going to, really, really deliver and give me a nice, very intense experience. Something that might even be too much for many, and even myself. So, good addition to this list. You want me to go with the next one?
Yes, sir.
This one's going to be probably the most interesting one. And thank God everything's over. Caffeine wars are over. I'm talking about Apollon Hooligan V5. Easily, it's now our strongest pre-workout on our ranking guides for obvious reasons. Before Apollon, I was always like at a limit of 400 milligrams of caffeine for my pre-workouts. Or those always had other like exotic stimulants in them. Now it's more like I'm willing to use Apollon without any excess, exotic stimulants. And it's not something I would use every week. It's not something I would recommend to everybody. But the profile overall, even at half scoop, is extremely impressive. Mm-hmm. And they did a good job with it. It's not meant for everybody. It doesn't taste good enough for everybody to enjoy it. But you know what? In terms of effectiveness, it easily deserves to be on this list.
If you don't have a good workout taking this, you're fucking something's wrong with you. Like,
Something
yes, I'm an advocate. I've been on my soapbox about high content pre-workouts and being opposed to them. And I'm not the biggest fan of even the high caffeine content on this. I'm not the biggest fan of, but I didn't get all cracked out like I thought I was going to. I thought it was actually a pretty good feeling pre-workout. Again, not something that I would take every single day, but it was a very impressive formula and definitely deserves to be on this list. One product that got a nod from a quote unquote rival website, which has been called the pre-workout of the year, or the best pre-workout of 2020, or the best pre-workout on the list, is Inspired Nutraceuticals' Devastate of the Union. That's their new pre-workout. Listen, if you know anything about Inspired, they do a really good job when it comes to their pre-workouts, including this one. This one's also very well done too, and we will let you guys and me and G will decide whether or not that their interpretation of this pre-workout meets that claim that it's the best of the year, but it was very good. Quite frankly, the best marketing campaign I've ever seen in the space done by the Inspired crew, and also a very good pre-workout.
I myself never got to try it. I didn't get a tub sent out to me. However, hey, I don't, you know me. I'm usually like very whatever. Don't send me anything. Devastate of the Union. The marketing for it was cool. They did some very interesting things there. What's the guy's name? Fade Landon.
Yep.
Very nice addition. He's done some pretty cool things there. I love the Guy Fawkes mask that they added to it. I mean, overall, just a very, very cool product. Formulas looks pretty interesting to me as well. So hopefully I get around to trying it here soon. I know you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It definitely, I got to use it a couple more times too before I do my final voting on this, but it definitely deserves to be on the list. And the last pre-workout on the list comes from Alpha Lion. It was early in the year. I know when we got a tub of it sent to us, you were actually here in Minneapolis with me. We tried it on camera. It is their new Superhuman Burn. Don't let the title fool you. It's more of a pre-workout, in my opinion, in our opinion, than a thermogenic. But it was very well done.
Very well done. I love the addition of Mito, one of the first companies to use it. And they did launch it alongside with Mito Burn, so you could try it out yourselves. That's not what we're here for, but I thought that was cool too. Definitely builds up a sweat. Definitely gives you that burn feeling. And just like last year, I think Superhuman Supreme was one of the runs for pre-workout of the year.
Yeah.
Well, they're back again this year, and that Superhuman line is actually overtaking the Alpha Lion.
It became a brand
name
of its own.
in a sense.
Became a brand of its own. Speaking of brand, let's hop into brand of the year nominees as we wrap up the podcast. Obviously, saving the biggest award for last. We obviously have a custom-made pro wrestling championship title belt being made for the winning brand, which is yet to be voted on, by the way. We actually don't even know who the brand of the year is yet. We will get their logo sent over to our plate maker as soon as we do the voting. And again, you guys will get the opportunity to vote at fitnessinformant.com. Brand of the year nominees. We'll start with the reigning defending champion of last year, Ghost out of Chicago. What's there not to really say about Ghost? I mean, they did a lot this year, and they're still doing stuff. I mean, we're getting renders every week of new flavors and new products. They just haven't taken their foot off the gas.
Fucking passion fruit just yesterday. Like, oh, great, they launched something else, which I had the news on that one. So it's hard to keep up with them. They already killed it last year. Then this year, I mean, Gamer, Glow, Bubblicious. Let's not even, do I really need to bring up Ghost Energy?
Right.
And the ABH signing?
Yep.
They've, if you thought they were good last year, this year they did even a lot more than last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're multivitamin. They found a cool way to make that interesting, especially with the eye health, health ingredients in there, which was supposed to go in Gamer. However, they decided to put that in a multivitamin, something that you would take every day versus, Gamer, something that you take when you play video games, not necessarily a product. So they're killing it this year. Dan and Ryan, this 2020 is almost their year, definitely easily their best year to date.
Yeah, I think because last year they had the hiccup with Chips Ahoy on the first run, and then they obviously made it better. They haven't had any hiccups yet this year. I mean, everything seems good, and they have more in the tank. I know that V2, Legend V2, and Pump V2 are on its way, but most likely those will be 2021 because they've done so much already in this year. But if you follow Dan on Instagram, he teased it on his Instagram story, so it's out there. So Ghost obviously fighting to keep that title, and they did a lot this year to do so. We do look at more things than just product launches. Obviously, their sales have to be there. We know that, even though it's not shared publicly. Distribution, the Ghost Energy is distribution nationwide, which is huge for the brand. So they continue to do things the right way, the Ghost way. Another brand I think that's neck and neck with them, quite honestly, is Core Nutritionals. I think Doug Miller and the crew at Core with the rebrand, with the new formulas, with all the new products and the flavors. I mean, they also equally did a ton this year. Like a ton, and I think it made retailers super excited to start selling Core again because they moved away from the black. They had this really nice white, and they have kind of like I don't know what you call it, text on the actual product names, but just overall one of the best rebrands of the year. Great formulas, always efficaciously dosed, and work extremely well. And I think that they've seen in a down year, they've seen a lot of success on their performance products because they were done so well.
I agree. I mean, how many product launches did they have this year? It wasn't even launches. It was more like a rebranding with some new formulas. So I guess that is a new products. However, one thing about Core is they've had great formulas for a very long time now. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly how long Core has been around. I want to guess over 10 years now, right?
It's been a long time.
They've always had great, very solid formulas, and this year's no different. And they find ways to make what they already good products better.
Yep.
Their flavorings were also top notch. We give a lot of other brands credit for flavoring. They did very good, especially with their proteins. So Core easily deserves to be on this list. They have Kent and Angle there. They have Doug. They
Patrick's,
have
Pat. The whole crew. I mean,
great team.
They did just such a phenomenal job that we're excited to see kind of how this next month goes before we do the final voting and see what else they potentially have in store. Another brand on this list. They became, I think, like one of the fastest growing companies in bodybuilding.com history, Alpha Line. If you guys remember last year, about this time, they launched, to be online exclusive with bodybuilding.com. And it was a big thing, a big deal. Some people were for it, some people were against it. But then they decided to essentially just rebrand a little bit, like G mentioned earlier, just doing Superhuman as the main brand. So you have Superhuman Sleep, Superhuman Greens. Yeah, I mean, you have Superhuman Pump. I mean, they did everything under Superhuman, and it's exciting. And, it was more of the back half of this year. They did a lot of really good stuff, and they're still doing stuff. And they were a brand last year that was considered for Brand of the Year. And to be in that conversation consistently year over year just means that you're winning as a brand. So we're happy to include them on the list again this year.
Yep. They, not even just their philanthropic thing that you talked about. Hopefully I pronounced that right.
You did it.
Oh, well. Their Gaines candy line was also very impressive. We get this question a lot too on our IG. Like, what's the best Gaines candy? Like, what do you think of Gaines candy? Like, which one are you talking about, buddy? Talking about their tea cream, their dynamine. They know how to. If you want to try out a new ingredient, like someone wants to try out tea cream, or Mito Burn, S7 even, we just go, hey, take some Gaines candy. They have it there.
Right.
Like thoughts on this ingredient, because we usually take it in their. They're great with new ingredients. It's usually in one of their products.
Yep.
So things might skew the actual effectiveness of it. Gaines candy is a great way to get past that.
Yeah.
They've been quiet a little bit. They were quiet for a little bit, but then they had a resurgence recently. Superhuman sleep. So they are on this list easily. You can go on the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take one here. Redcon 1 is going to find themselves on the list almost every year because they just do enough in terms of distribution growth. They didn't do a ton this year in terms of product launches. I know everybody was super excited for MRE RTD that is to do in this month here in November. But again, this is a brand that continues to grow. They didn't lay anybody off during COVID. They actually made the most money and they grew their Amazon channel. But what's extremely important about Redcon is they launch in Walmart this month. Now, why is that important? I did a whole podcast with Josh Shaw on this. By being more of a premium supplement brand, now you guys can argue that if you want, but I mean, they're more premium than the Cellucor line of products that are on the shelves now. Total War, Redcon products are not changing their formula for Walmart. Walmart is paying a higher price point for this. By coming into Walmart at Redcon 1, they are opening the door, and we talk about impact, right? We talk about impact in the voting. The impact that Redcon can have for potential new entrants in the Walmart channel is absolutely huge. If it's successful and consumers are willing to pay $40 for a pre-workout on a Walmart shelf, other brands can get into Walmart, and you are talking millions and millions and millions of dollars and, just brand reach. A Walmart deal is absolutely huge for Redcon. That definitely puts them on this list. And I think all brands in the world should be rooting for Redcon to do well, because if they do well, it just presents an opportunity for every other brand to potentially get their stuff into Walmart and not have to change the formula.
Creating opportunities for everybody else, I like it. They did launch the Basic Series, which obviously, isn't like the sexiest thing out there. I thought it was a good addition simply because it helps with their, their specials that they have.
Yep.
It'd be cool to grab a Total War and then get a free vitamin C along with it. You can customize your own little formulas there with Redcon 1 products, So overall good. I like their growth. They're just Redcon's going to Redcon. So there's a reason why they're on this list.
100%.
And then lastly, this should be as no surprise either. We just talked about them. They're up for Product of the Year. It's NutraBio.
Yeah,
NutraBio. They're pretty much always on the list. They're always in the run-in. They're always doing great things there. We love the education that they do. We love what they do for this industry. They're like that friendly neighborhood guy that just is just so upstanding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Mark and the team there, I mean, they have a lot of cool stuff in the works, too, that haven't come to fruition yet this year, but their philanthropic efforts over the summer and during COVID really showed character and genuinely who they are as a brand. And that is a brand that I want to align myself with on Fitness Informant, that I think consumers want to align themselves with. And I can't say enough good things about what NutraBio did for people that needed help this year. And not necessarily like a monetary donation, but just they were there for people who put the time and effort into the front line. So they definitely need to be on this list. An awesome list. We're going to be voting here in about a month. We're going to open up fitnessinformant.com for votes. G gets a vote. I get a vote. We have some special people behind the scenes that also will be getting a vote. And then we will be awarding the winners beginning of December, with us actually presenting the Brand of the Year award during the 2020 Mr. Olympia weekend. So whether or not the brand that wins that award is in Vegas or not, we will announce it live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Whether or not the show even happens, we have plans on being in Vegas. But if you guys liked what you heard here on the podcast, hit the subscribe button. Watch us via YouTube. Write us a review. It helps out the algorithm. But, gee, I'm excited about the awards this year. Again, a weird year, but I think the brands and products did enough good things to have this conversation. And I'm excited for this podcast to drop, which shows our appreciation for those brands, and to give a nod of thank you to products and brands out there.
I agree. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, man. No, I mean, I think we covered it. Anything you want to say to the people, G, about your hair? How do you keep it? Is it ghost glow? Is that how your hair stays so well?
No, I only wash it once, twice a week. Keeps it healthy. Use natural oils in there. Ghost glow is a good product.